What's up? It's your girl Fluffy, and I'm back with another episode of Worries and Wine. And today I have one of my good friends here. Her name is Shantae.
Hello.
And today, before we get started, you guys, we have a good conversation, I promise. We have some wine. This is Capriccio. It is a sangria. This was recommended. Somebody told me to get it. And y'all know when I say somebody, I'm talking about Mr. Man. Right. He told me to get sangria. He told me to actually put fruit, but we ain't got no fruit, okay? Can't afford that yet. Now, anyway, me and Shantae were talking about what it is to be black and successful. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't happen overnight. And so one of the things that we were talking about were the different adversities that some black people have to go through just to become successful.
Right.
So, bottoms up. Here we go to our worries and our wine. So, Shantae, I just want to talk to you because when I first met you, we had a banging conversation. And I was like, man, this is my first time meeting her. Super awesome. And ever since then, I'm like, I love your whole story.
Thank you.
So I'm hoping today that you will be willing to share with us a little bit about the adversities that you experienced coming up. And now you're just successful, own your own home, and just overall just everything that people want to be. So could you tell us about that?
Yes. So I grew up, born and raised in Compton. Grew up in a two-parent home until I was about 5 years old when my parents split up, and my mom ended up being a single mom. And with that came a lot of, what do I want to say? A lot of adverse things. So we ended up going from a home to apartments. Both of my parents were on drugs.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
That was tough.
Okay, so both parents. So who left? Mom left or dad left?
Dad left.
Okay, so dad leaves and now you're living with mom and then they're both on drugs. Now, were they on drugs together or was it something that kind of happened?
They were on drugs together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they were on drugs together, and that was prior to them splitting up. But they were married for about 10, 11 years by the time they split up.
Wow.
So had to live with mom, went from a home to apartments. Since they were on drugs, that was their main focus. So I grew up very poor until I became an adult, and I remember being a child saying that I did not want to be like my parents because I knew the way that they were living, that wasn't right.
Wasn't right.
Yeah,
so even at a very young age, you were just like,
right.
Something's wrong here.
Yes, I knew that it was wrong from a young age, and I don't know how that I was able to comprehend that as a child, but I remember seeing that, and I remember not wanting to be like that, and that was my focus.
You were the only child.
I have an older brother, so it's just my brother and I, so it's just two kids.
Okay, so just two kids. Because it kind of reminds me of like my family dynamic, watching like my aunt and my uncles and them battle, with drugs, because it's really a demon, and it's hard because I saw their family suffer very much like that, went from a house to apartment and then to now you live with my grandma.
Right.
And that was just hard. So I can't imagine what it would be like to be a kid and then seeing your parents like that. Did you ever have to feel like you had to beg for their attention or, hey, I'm here, hi?
I did, and I was a straight A student, and my brother wasn't such a good student. He probably wouldn't want me saying that, but I was a straight A student, so I wanted to get the accolades for, making A's, and my mother didn't really care about that, so that kind of hurt a little bit. And with that being said, my smarts, so to speak, was the only thing that I had that I was able to hold on to that I could control. Nobody could take that from me. So that was something that I held on to, and then I had to get over the fact that nobody cared about my grade. No one cared about my grades.
Nobody cared about, Yeah.
So that was just something that I held on to, and I just knew that I did not want to live the drug lifestyle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of carried that. So did you at any point ever have to live with anybody else, or you just always stayed with your parent? And what point did you separate from that?
So I always stayed with my mother until I became an adult. And when I became an adult, I got my first apartment when I was 19. And then my mother ended up getting evicted because of drugs, because she wasn't paying her bill. So she lived with me from when I was 19 to when I was 31.
Wow.
So that was a long time, and that was because I was getting married, and my husband told me she couldn't live with us. So, which he was right to say that. I get
right. No, that was
but
fair.
That was the breaking point. And I had to grow up. I ended up doing things on my own and making my own way. And I used to be ashamed to say that my parents were on drugs. I would never,
Really?
yeah, I would never say it. But I can say it now because it took me to get to a point to realize that that was them. And it's not me. Even though that was a part of my life, it wasn't me specifically. So I can say it, and I know that it wasn't my fault, and it wasn't me.
So all through school, like, because I know, like, when you have, when you're in grade school, even in college, you have those things that parents show up. Did they even show up to, like, those type of events for you, or?
Funny you say that. I didn't even go to my high school graduation because my parents.
What? You didn't?
My high school graduation,
Wow.
I did not go to, and I told you I was smart. I graduated top 5% of my class,
And didn't even go to
I didn't
your
go
own?
to I didn't even go to my high school graduation.
So you just skipped it. So the day of the graduation, did you even have like an inkling to go, or you just were like, no, I'm just not gonna go?
I knew that I wasn't going to go.
Wow.
I asked them if they wanted to go. I remember I asked them individually.
And so even individually separated, because at this point parents are not together.
Correct.
And neither one was like, yeah, I'll go.
Right, exactly.
Okay, now bringing that up, were you ever able to tell them how that made you feel later on in life at some point?
Oh, you know what? I never did.
Really?
I never talked to them about it. And I do remember about 10 years ago, my cousin and my then husband, they knew about the story about me not going to my graduation party, but they threw a party it was a surprise party. It was a birthday party / graduation party. So I ended up having a graduation ceremony, cap and gown and everything. But I never talked to my parents about it.
Wow. So
And now that I think about it, I just realized I never talked to them about it.
So where are they now, if you don't mind me asking? Like
My dad passed away 18 years ago,
Okay.
and my mother is living in the LA area. So
Okay.
I get along with her,
Yeah.
I do. I love her, but I just didn't like some of the things that she did.
Right. I mean, and that's fair to say. That's fair. Now, how did that affect you when, like, you had to go to work or, things of that nature? Because, like, like my mom will call me and I'm like, girl, I'm in a meeting. I gotta call you. So did you ever experience things like that? Like, was she ever involved? Like that? Because I just want to know, like, was she involved at all?
No, but she would, and she doesn't say anything to me directly, but she'll tell other people. Like other people say, "Oh, Chantel, your mom said such and such about you," and I'm like, she did?
Wow, really?
Yeah, she won't say it to me, but she'll tell everyone. She's damn proud of me, but she won't tell me. She'll tell other people.
And why do you suppose that is, though?
I think that is her shame.
Wow.
I'm guessing, but it's got to be her shame. Like I said, I get along with her now. If she needed something, I'll hop in my car right now and I'll
drive right out to where she's at.
Yeah, I'll walk on that freeway if I have to. And I think she would do the same thing. If I needed something from her, she'll be here because we had to develop that bond now as an adult. But yeah, I never talked to her about it. I did try to tell her like a couple of things that happened when I was younger. She didn't want to hear it.
So did she just like shut you out from that, or
she told me that it didn't happen? So that was a sign for me to just leave it alone because she doesn't want to accept it. She knows, and she knows that I know, so it's fine.
Wow. I mean, I think that's the adult part in you that's like, well, I'm gonna accept that because I know some people have a hard time, when parents can't accept what happened to you because it's like in hindsight they kind of know it was their fault. Because like I let that happen. So is it shame or fault, do you feel? Or do you feel like it's a combination of both? Because that kind of puts you at adversity because then it's like whatever happened to you, well, I guess because you're strong enough to resonate, but there are some people that are just like, how do you let that go? Like, I can't let that go.
And I know people that can't let it go. And I had to. And too, is because I'm a believer. So I know God had a lot to do with that. But me hanging on to that's just going to cause me grief. I have no reason to hang on to it. Like I said, I know that it happened. I don't forget. I forgave, and it is what it is. And I know that I didn't end up being, a victim of my circumstance. I ended up being better. So because I went through that, it made me better.
Wow. Okay, because I know like sometimes like I got to see the kind of like the best of the both worlds because I kind of saw where like, my cousins, some of them took the more positive attributes like you did and became more successful, whereas some of them kind of like followed right in the same track as their parent. So do you feel at that point, like when you have parents who are on drugs, let's just say, you might have been a drug baby. Do you pick and choose which route to go. Like,
wow.
How do I know how to fight that, you know, to be the same or to be like my parent? How did you decipher that? Like, because you said at a very young age it happened for you. So it's just like, you know, as Black people, you know, we don't think about that. Like, how do you know to say, I don't want to be like that?
That had to have been, I'm going to say God had to step in when I was a kid, because on the other hand, that's what I saw. That was my norm. So, of course, if they were on drugs, I got to do drugs too, because that's what my parents do.
It was okay for them, right? It was okay. So
because that would have been my norm, but it had to have been a higher power. I just remember being young, saying I don't want to live like that.
So if we had to give a message out to the world, and we have people who are like, you know, I'm young, they're watching the show, and they're like, my parents are on drugs, and I'm fighting to not be that. How do you tell them to, you know, what do we give them? What is the advice that we would give them, or you would give them, to fight against that?
That they definitely need to stick to their guns, make their own choices, and doing the right thing, and not be susceptible to peer pressure, or because people just want to get high. It's not good for you financially. It's not good for you mentally. It's not good for you physically. They just need to move forward in a positive direction, because there's nothing good that's going to come out of that.
Wow.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, because, you know, but here's the thing. This is one thing that I did see a lot of. I feel like we had that message in our family, and I still saw some of the cousins still go down that route. So it's sometimes, I don't know if it's just that easy, but I think what you said was an important key, was that God played a role in it. And that's where there was a lack of in my family. Like, my family wasn't big on going to church. Like, my grandmothers, they were.
Right.
But then when it came down to like our generation, like my mom was always at work, so it wasn't as strict. So it's like, where did you have that strong, you know, godly background? Like, how was that instilled in you?
I didn't come to Christ until I was 29. So
okay.
So just before that, I just want to say that he was working on me. So like I said, it had to be a higher power, because I don't know if I was thinking positively on my own, because I just knew that it wasn't right.
Man, so you just knew, and that, I mean, and that's, I guess that's the way God just works through some of us, because some of us, I feel like we do have to go through the hardships to kind of like, you know, figure out life. Sometimes it's just set up that way, but it's an important key that you said, though, just having God, you know. And if I had to give that message out, I would definitely say something along that lines, to follow your heart.
Yes.
Make the right decisions, because it's not easy. Because these adversities are already placed against us. Like, drugs are already in Compton, California, for sure.
Right.
Okay? Like, for sure, you're going to find that. You know, you're going to find people who are, you know, they can't catch a break. You know, you're going to find people trying to do the get-rich-quick schemes. You're going to find the hustlers. You're going to find the drug dealers. All of that is placed as an adversity. And then, add that, you're Black. So now, let's fast forward. How did that affect you, being the Black girl from Compton, California, to being in the successful position that you're in now at work?
Well, I already know that I'm judged, and I have been judged in pretty much every position that I've been in, because for the most part, I would say at least 90% of the time, I've been the only Black person there. So, you know, I'm judged. They look at me, they watch my every move. Sometimes I think people wait for me to mess up, but then I'm above that. So in my own mind, I have to excel, and I have to do the right thing, and I have to present myself well. I go to work every day suited and booted. And not to be funny, I dress better than my boss. And I'm not doing that just to like shame her.
Right.
I do that because that is for me, because I know that they're watching me. So I'm going to be the
best version of you that you can be.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's what I do.
Because, you know, when I got to college, and I definitely am I'm probably the only one that has gone as far in both sides of my families to do the PhD level. And growing up in those classes, I remember it being, you know, when I was like in community college, it was full of Black people.
Right.
I got to, you know, undergrad, it's okay, it's a few Black people. And then I started getting a master's degree, it ain't no Black people, you know, and there was nobody to identify with. So then, yes, I felt that, where you become very marginalized, you know, and it's a marginalized, and then it's like, all of a sudden, when they bring up anything that has to do with Black people, you're the expert, right?
Right. Yes.
You're the expert. So how was it like in slavery? I don't know. no, I wasn't there.
Exactly.
It becomes that, right?
It does.
And then it's like, now my skin tone color has become my adversity, because now, I don't know if you felt like this, but did you ever feel like you had to try to kind of almost dumb down your smarts because people felt like you shouldn't be that smart?
Right. That has happened before.
Yes.
That has happened, and I remember one job that I had at a hospital, and I love computers, and I'm a little bit of a nerd. Okay. I'm a lot of bit of a nerd.
I am too. So it's okay.
And
it's okay.
It was a chief information officer at one of the hospitals that I worked at, and he was going back and forth with me on this software program, and I know the software program because I've used it. It was new to him, so I was trying to tell him, and he didn't want to listen to me. So I literally had to go to his office and show him how to do it, and he ended up finally, he realized
accepting it.
Yeah,
right.
he did. But I thought it was funny. I was like, me, a little lonely little office worker, showing the chief information officer. But he did not want to.
He didn't want to accept it. Not only that, because here's your adversity. You're a woman.
Yes.
You're black.
Yes.
And then your position's lower than his.
Exactly.
So you have all these different adversities that you have to go through. And then at the end of the day, still be at work. And then they're expecting you not to be the angry black woman. So you got to put on that smile.
Exactly.
It may not totally be your day, but you have to,
That's
and
it.
those are the adversities that we face. And it's unfortunate that we have to go through that, because it's almost like you have to constantly prove yourself. It's like I have to prove that I belong here.
Right.
Because of I'm a woman. I'm black. I'm probably smarter than you.
Right.
And you don't want to admit that. Because I've been in a position where I had more credentials than the CEO of the company. But they treated me as if I had a good enough diploma. That was it.
Yeah. Right. And on top of that, I know we were talking earlier off camera about being well spoken. As
articulate. That's their favorite word.
Yeah, you were so articulate.
It's not a compliment anymore to me. Like and when I first started hearing it, was like, oh, thank you. But then when you realize it was like, this is what I say to people who are black, and it sounds really nice, because I would not believe that a black person wrote this. I had a teacher in college that it didn't matter what I wrote to her. It was an automatic fail.
Excuse me?
It was an automatic fail. In college, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I got Bell's palsy in the face because I was stressing out about this lady's class. Because here it was, I was in, once I got my bachelor's degree in English, but once you get to the end part of it, it's nothing but English classes, right?
Okay.
So I got to all my seminars. I'm getting all A's. All A's. One teacher who happened to be white was like, I love the way you write. It's beautiful. It's straight to the point. Love it. This other lady, you need to work on your grammar. You need to work on your punctuation. You need to read this book. You need to do that. That's just not good enough. So finally, I went and told the dean. I was like, I can't do it, because I said, there's no way that this teacher is telling me this sounds good and I am a great writer.
Right.
And then this teacher is telling me that, no, you're not. Who's right and who's wrong in the same semester?
Right, exactly.
So I went to the dean, and lo and behold, they said, well, we're going to have a dean come audit the class. They told me, but they didn't tell her. So the dean shows up, and guess what? The dean is black.
Oh, okay.
All of a sudden, in this class, she never used to want to pick on me. She would skip over me. I would watch nobody raise their hand, and I would be like this, and she would be like, oh, Thomas, what would you like to say?
Oh, boy.
Thomas ain't raised his hand, sis.
Whoa.
And it was like that, and I was the only black person in her class. And I just knew that you could feel the racism, like she did not want to pass me. Because here I am, black girl, in an English class, in a high up English class. I don't want you to be successful in this. And I mean, I could just feel the, like, give me back my papers. D, fail. I even wrote a paper for one of the white people in her class. Gave him an A. But I wrote it.
But you wrote it.
She never knew that. And I told the dean that, and that's why they ended up coming out that, and they were just like, no, there's no way.
Right.
So the dean comes, and all of a sudden she's like, Tiara, what would you like to say? And I said, oh, so you want to call on me now because she's sitting here? So it was just like really hard dealing with those adversities in college, having a teacher that's willing to downgrade everything you do because they just don't want to see you successful.
Right.
And that was a hard time for me, because here it was, I had never felt I had felt racism before, but on a smaller level, like out in public, you know. But to feel it at the educational level,
right.
So, did you ever have to go through that? Did you ever?
No, just mostly at work, not.
Wow.
Yeah, it's tough and it's hard. I worked at a place and they ended up firing me. They don't want to say that they fired me, but I ended up, even though they fired me out of that department, I ended up transferring to another department, and I worked for a CEO. And I worked for a CEO and a CFO, and they didn't like me. And it's fine.
Right.
Either people like me or they don't. But when I go to this other department, I had to go to this other department for less pay. But lo and behold, they kept calling me
To go back
to help. Well, we have a new assistant. Can you train her?
Why do you need me to train her?
Yeah. So they kept calling me back, and I ended up going to HR, and I told them, you know, I said, if I'm going to work over in that department, you guys are going to pay me that department's rate. So the HR lady said, well, don't you want to help them? And I said, no, I don't.
Not for free?
Right.
I didn't go to school to just be helping people for free.
Right.
And then at that, you want me to help somebody
that doesn't want me there. So and then so to me that proved they liked my work. They didn't like me.
Yeah, they didn't like you. So then it was personal.
Right.
And then HR didn't want to see that either.
Right.
Yeah, I've been in that situation too, where it was like, y'all know I'm damn good at what I do.
Right.
But y'all are always treating me like, no, you're not. You're just not that.
Right.
You know, one of the other adversities that I faced was amongst my own people, amongst my own black people.
How was that?
That was hard because it made me start dimming down my light, which is why I don't tell a lot of people that I do have or I'm working on a PhD, because it changes how people look at you. Because now all of a sudden, oh, you want to take my job. And it's like, well, I don't want your job. I want higher than your job.
Right.
I'm gonna be honest. I want your boss's job.
Exactly.
That's what I really want. If you want to get technical, you can keep your job. I like you.
Right.
You know, but it was the moment people found out, like, what I felt at my previous job was once certain people found out, like, oh, you're getting a PhD, instead of, oh, she cool, she this, she that, it became, oh, you a know-it-all.
Wow.
Why do I have to be a know-it-all? Because I'm informed. I paid attention in the meetings. And it's just like these adversities, it's like, it's hard being in a workplace. It's hard trying to be successful. Like, I'm going to say, like, it's hard because I want to be that successful person. But then I'm like, damn, I'm a woman. So I got to be careful with being aggressive.
Oh, because you'll be the angry black woman.
Because now I'm the angry black woman. Right. Then I'm black. So now you got to work twice as hard, because you got to work up against the Hispanic women who they can speak Spanish. So they got double up on you if they speak Spanish. Because you like, well, okay, you got me there, sis. Now I'm a woman, I'm black, I'm trying to, I have a degree, and then people want you to show other colors. So then you have people that purposely do things to bring you out of character.
Right.
And then it's like, but at the same time, I'm supposed to go to work, dress professional, and be nice.
All day long.
And
no matter what they're throwing at you, though.
Right, and then still have this Eurocentric perspective. And when I say Eurocentric perspective, I mean, hi, how are you doing? Okay, well, I'll make sure that I get that right over to you. I'm going to email it to you right now. I got to have that voice on 8 hours a day.
Exactly.
Only to be, quote unquote, successful.
Right.
So why do you think that we have to go through all these adversities? Because I feel like for our counterparts, it's not that hard. I feel like they can just get up and go to work.
They can get up and go to work. I don't think men go through what we go through.
No, I don't. I feel like they don't. I feel like they just get up, they go to work, and it's okay for you to be the alpha male. But God forbid you are a black alpha female just trying to be successful.
Right.
It's tough. It's hard. Like, there's days where I'm just like, it drains me so much that there's days where I'm just like, I don't even want to go.
Right. And I am at a place where I deal with physicians, and my coworkers make fun of me. Oh, Dr. So-and-so is afraid of you, Shantae. Why? Because I'm firm. So there, in a way, it's like a backhanded way of saying I'm the angry black girl. I'm not angry. I just tell it how it is, and I'm firm. Oh, he's scared. He's afraid of you. I don't want him to be afraid of me. I need
Right,
him to
like
respect
I'm not
me.
trying to intimidate him, but I am
Exactly.
going to be firm in my decision, because if that's the decision that's being made, that's the decision.
Exactly.
Because if I give you room to walk over me, then I'm never going to be in a spot where I can be put in a position of power.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's it
And
right
it's just
there.
like, man, and I just hate that we have to go through that. Like, it just kills me. It just absolutely kills me, because I've had to dim down a lot of the accomplishments. And not to say that I'm not happy about them, but I've had to be more humble than a lot of people. And it's like, sometimes I'm tired of being humble. I would love to just go out to the world and be like, hey girl, check me out.
Right.
But I can't do that, because a lot of people, there's so many adversities placed against you, and you become this marginalized person. So how do you suppose we overcome that now?
I don't even know if it's to a point to be overcame. I just think that we just have to do what we have to do, because that's not going to stop people from thinking that way. We're not going to stop. So that is beyond our control. We just have to do what we have to do. We have to stand strong in who we are. We are definitely strong Black women. And I just say keep it moving. And just forget all the noise that's happening, because people are still going to talk, and they're still going to do what they do. And they're going to think the way that they think.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And we just stand strong.
Yeah, we got to definitely stand strong through it all. Like, you got to stay strong, because it's definitely not going to happen for you if you're feeling any type of weak about it. You definitely have to build this thick skin to get through the adversities and to become successful. So, with that being said, everybody, definitely talk amongst yourselves. Have that core group of people that's there to support you. So when you do feel down and out or beat because of the adversities that have been placed against you, fight through it.
That's right.
You know, fight through it, because I realized that if we didn't fight through it, we wouldn't be where we are today. So it's the same fight that our ancestors had, but now we got to fight to keep it. It's one thing to fight to get it.
Right.
But now that we have it, you got to keep it.
Exactly.
And that's where we have to go with that, right?
Amen.
Right. So with that being said, everybody, we want to thank you for tuning in on this episode. And if you have had any adversities in your life, please definitely let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And we hope to see you soon. And don't forget, it's okay to have your worries and your wine.